So, welcome everybody. Delighted to have you all on board today. This is the largest group interview I've done so far, and I have very high expectations for this one. So, no pressure, guys. I think it's brilliant that such an important topic as everybody's well-being is going to be discussed because obviously so much going on. We all need to be in the best shape. So without any further ado, Christine, if you'd like to introduce yourself, quick, who you are, what you do, and then we'll follow on from there.
Sure, thank you, Steve. Morning to everybody, and thank you, Steve, for your invitation to join this panel this morning. My name is Christine Charles, as you alluded to, and I am a life coach in the areas of resilience, and I've been doing that for over a decade. So I'm not actually as young as I look. In fact, I've dyed my white hairs for everybody this morning. Yeah, so that's all around self-awareness, and I'm also do people development, and I'm also a radio presenter for Radio Plus Coventry, which I've been doing for about just over 4 years now, and I produce and present a show called The Health and Wellbeing Show, which airs every Saturday from 10 a.m. till 12 midday. And the core aim is to reduce the risk of mental health. It's not to cure it, it's to reduce it. And we look at four things that encompass that: mind, body, soul, and spirit. And that's me in a nutshell. I'm very passionate about mental health. And, I want to be a part of that generation who eradicates it, which is a big, bold statement to say, but I think we're in a place in the world right now where we need boldness and bravery and courageousness. Yeah. I know I can't do that by myself, which is why I'm so excited to be on this panel with these lovely people who are a part of that movement.
Right, so brilliant. And then I'm going to be much shorter than you now. Right, Sabina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me as well, Steve. It's amazing of you to organize this. I'm super grateful to be part of the well-being movement as well. My name is Sabina Furiova, and I'm a yoga teacher and meditation teacher. I also do access bars therapy, and a gong bath practitioner, which is really delicious. It's a sound bath, and all of these lovely activities to actually help mental well-being, and not just physical, but of course working on the subtle levels as well. So yeah, I'm very passionate about what I do as well because of helping people. I started with depression myself. I was suffering really badly for years, and all of these practices helped me transform that so much. And this is why I'm so passionate about sharing it with others. Okay. So I'm going to leave it there.
Brilliant. Karen.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karen, and I'm delighted to be here as well. Thank you very much, Steve. I'm a life coach as well. I'm also an executive coach, and I'm a mindfulness trainer. I work with individuals, teams, and groups across all sectors. And what I most care about is helping people regain and maintain good mental health.
All right, brilliant. Great summation. And last but not least, Rashid.
So thanks very much, Steve. Really delighted to be here. So I'm Rashid, a coach, speaker and author, life coach, leadership coach. My work is really about inner peace, inner fulfillment, as well as traditional life, career and business development. And I'm author of a number of books and CDs, including Soul Trader, putting the heart back into your business. So for me, it's about how we can do these things with heart, be it in our life, careers and so on, whilst taking care of ourselves as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, now to the real meat of the matter. Obviously, we've all been through a lot, as everybody we know has as well. So what I'd like you to do is to, as much as you can, précis your personal experience of lockdown, the ups and downs, twists and turns, or whatever you want to call it, and how you've actually dealt with this, so that everybody who's watching this and everybody who can be inspired by this can get a real handle, because we're not infallible. We all go through the same emotions, don't we? it might be that we possibly don't show them in the same way to others. I don't know. So let's go the other way around this time. Let's start with Rashid.
I mean, it's a really good question, Steve. I think that for me, there's two sides of this. There's the side for oneself and then the side for everyone else, isn't there? So I think for me, there's myself and taking care of my own self and my own well-being, which I think is really, really important if you're in the well-being industry anyway, or if you're anybody who supports others. And I do a lot of work, for example, in the NHS and so on. So for me, it's really important that you're taking care of yourself and your own emotional well-being. And that's the case whether you're a coach, a trainer, if you're a parent, anybody with responsibilities supporting anybody else. It's really important that you're able to take care of your own well-being. Otherwise, you're just not going to be available to do that. So for me, during lockdown, the first thing was really to be very aware of myself and to take care of myself. And I'm lucky in a way that for me, it's important to practice what I preach. For me, it's simple things like what time I go to bed, waking up early. I'm a morning person. So it's getting up early, putting the time for my own exercise routine, going out first thing in the morning, very early in the morning. I like to go out for during lockdown, I've had to change my exercise routine. So I go for a morning run. I've learned to really enjoy running, which I used to hate doing. So I go for a run every morning around 6 o'clock. And then when I get in, then that's my time and work kind of time. But also it's been about being aware, being as energized as I can, because I'm also supporting people as a coach, but also in the community where I live, there's a community organisation that I'm involved in, and I run a committee. So I was really aware of needing to be in that leadership role there, but also being in a place of being able to be more resourceful and compassionate, being aware that everyone's going to have those ups and downs that you're talking about, Steve. So it's been really interesting to be aware of that and just be aware of energy from moment to moment, day to day, week to week, because things have changed from week to week. So for me, it's important to be even more kind, even more compassionate, and even more aware of one's own wellness and one's energy levels. And I found that the more I've been mindful about that for myself and others, the better place I've been in for myself and for clients during these unusual times. I think it's really important for that energy for self and for others. Being there for others is incredibly important. Friends, family, contacts, you name it, colleagues, people I work with, and giving them that space just to talk has been really important too.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Rashid. Well, as you mentioned mindful, I think maybe we'll go to Karen next.
Yeah, it's very similar to Rashid, really. And while I was listening to you, Rashid, I was thinking, how mindful we really have to be as people in the serving roles, helping others, of really looking after ourselves, and how easily we can forget to do that. And I think it's because it's in our Western culture where we sort of put other people first in a way, and where looking after ourselves is easily viewed as self-indulgent or selfish, which of course is completely untrue. The more we help ourselves, the more of course we have to give for others, and the more we develop ourselves and our mental states and our bodies, the more we can give to others, or that's the level at which we can help others.
And also I think, taking Rashid's point, it's almost expected of us in our professions that we are positive and upbeat and healthy. Otherwise it doesn't really look good on for others, does it?
So self-care, top number one. And I do my morning practice as well, and I make sure I go out into nature after lunch, and I've blocked out 2-hour slots now after lunch, 2 till 4. There's no work in my diary. And in a way, it's interesting. I have been more clear about it now in lockdown than I was before. So I think I've clarified my own work routine. And in a way, I have been looking better after myself than I have been before, which is fantastic, really. And it feels good because I feel I do walk the talk. And it's absolutely necessary.
Brilliant. Okay, Sabina.
I have to actually second all of that. I am guilty of giving too much. Admitted there, nobody's perfect. We're still going through the learning curve. As you said, self-care is so important. Personal practice, so important. It's a road, because if you don't do that, you can't be there for others. And I have a lot of people as well calling me for support, and usually I can do that. But when I'm feeling low myself, of course, I can't be there. So self-care is like super number one, always. And then what I would suggest as well, just be honest. Even with my students, I'm really open. Like if I'm feeling rubbish, I show them actually, you know what, I need to take some step back and doing some self-care, because that's an invitation for them to do the same as well. So not like usually on media and everything is just beautiful, everything is fine. Life isn't like that. So I find it's really important to actually show you vulnerability, that you're also a human, you also have your ups and downs, and that's an invitation for people actually to do the same, and to be with your feelings. That I've offered that to my students. Be with your feelings. Don't look for distractions, for TV, Netflix, calling a friend even. Just actually allow the feelings in if they arrive and let them flow through. That was my big rock of going through ups and downs in this lockdown, to actually giving yourself the time to process.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, last but not least, Christine.
For me, there's many things that have changed. The first thing that I had to look at was what is in my control and what isn't. And I had to change the way that I worked, predominantly with the radio stuff. So that was brand new for me. And those of you who have studied neuroscience will know new neuro pathways had to be created. And it took for a friend, like Sabina's saying, me sharing my heart with her one day, saying, Christine, you're in your head, you need to get in your heart. And as soon as that, it happened in a split second. As soon as it did, I was then able to connect with the feelings. I was putting myself under immense pressure and big responsibility. But as soon as I connected with my heart, my emotions, I was then, like Rashid and Karen are saying about the self-care, I was then able to say, actually, I've got these feelings of guilt. I've got these feelings of anxiety. I need to deal with this and put this on pause. And when I started to speak to friends, the support, I did not expect the support that I had. And that then enabled me to just take a step back and go, you know what, I'm having a duvet day today. I ain't going to feel guilty about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think this whole thing about reaching out to trusted friends and people who bring you up, I think that's really important, isn't it? And I think it's going to be even more important because we're there's a long way to go yet, isn't there? Okay, so I think let's look at what's changed the longer things have gone on for you, because I mean, personally, from my perspective, I feel a huge change. I don't know if you're all the same, but the first couple of weeks, it was like, this is in a dream, this isn't happening. I'm going to wake up one day and it's all going to be gone away. But I wouldn't say I was anxious about it. I was confused. I don't feel confused now, but I feel in this sort of flux, this state of flux. And all of a sudden, I don't know if you're finding the same, social media seems to have slowed down. People aren't engaging in the way they were because they're social media'd out, they're zoomed out. So there's definitely things have changed. So let's start with Karen on this one.
Yeah, I would agree with what you're saying, Steve. I mean, talking from my personal experience, I definitely was in a state of anxiety in the first weeks of lockdown because I did lose a lot of work that I had scheduled with particularly corporate clients, also coaching clients. But my corporate work usually involves bigger pieces of work and longer programs of mindfulness. So when that fell away, the impact was quite big. So I was anxious about income, but also bigger questions arose around, will I be able to continue my business, or will I lose my business? Will I be able to keep it afloat? So big questions, existential questions. I felt real existential angst even in the mornings, early hours in the morning, because I didn't know what was going to happen. So confusion was there, not knowing and wanting to know. Always this tension of wanting to know, but of course we can't know anything. And that's a hard truth, isn't it? To come into relationship with that we know nothing, that I know nothing.
So where are you now?
Yeah. So now I don't have that level of anxiety anymore. I think I've settled into more of trusting emergence. Let's see what happens. So I'm more going week by week now, or even day by day. And I've become more curious. I think, okay, let's see what this time will bring us, because a lot of good stuff has emerged as well. And I've had quite creative phases. So I'm more, I would say, in a more curious mindset now, and more hopeful and trusting that, let's see what happens.
Yeah, brilliant. Sabina, obviously you make radical changes.
I did, yeah. I took all my, whatever I could, I took online. Like I could do that with the yoga, so that it gave me at least some kind of income. So I wasn't actually worried that much about my business, although like my income reduced dramatically. But I was more struggling the first week with not being in contact with people, because I'm a hugger. I love people so much. I always hug all my students, and that human interaction and everything being online, I struggle with that so much. But as we like you said, with the control, let go of control and just go with the flow. And I've kind of like relaxed into it now, got into the routine. And with business as well, I actually see new opportunities, maybe which I can apply to my business even after this lockdown is over. So business-wise, I actually don't see it as anything that bad. And also it's an invitation to spend more time on yourself. And because things are going up and down so much, a lot of stuff is coming up for a lot of people. And I think it's a great thing. I know it's not comfortable, but if you're willing to be uncomfortable and look at it, I think it's a great opportunity for healing for everybody.
Yeah, okay. And Christine?
Well, I think what's changed is everything really outside my home. You know, my home, I'm the master of my home. It's up to me what I do when I do. And thankfully, I've stayed within the routine. But the other big thing really is the communication. How we communicate with one another as human beings has changed, not just on a practical level, but Rashid hit the nail on the head for me really about the heart connection. I'm having conversations, different types of conversations with family, friends, you know, the radio community, life coaching community. We're talking more from the heart now. We're getting to the roots, you know, how people are communicating with each other when I step out of my home and go into public. You know, I have a whole 2 meters apart. For me, it's a bit. I'm still getting used to it, if I'm honest. It's been a big change for me. So yeah, I think the main thing for me is how we're communicating. It'll be interesting for me how flexible we are as human beings. I mean, what does life look after
Well, we'll come on to that one in a minute.
Sorry. Jumping the gun.
Yeah, and Rashid.
It's really interesting hearing that. I'd resonate with that, what everyone said so far, really. I think what I found interesting is that each week was different. I was very aware at the beginning, you know, but suddenly my weeks, from knowing what the weeks would look like and knowing how to flow with the week, I was realizing that from, you know, a typical day where I might have a clear diary and know what my diary was doing, and being able to deliver to that, I found that instead of like 80% of things happening how I'd imagine they would in a day, suddenly it was more like 50. You know, there was some stuff happening and then there's other stuff coming in and having to flow with that. So I think there's a few things really. Being one of the hats I wear as a business coach, so I was very, very aware very, very quickly, how's the business doing? And I'm the life and business coach partner of British Library's Business Library Centre. So I was very aware that I needed to look at things in terms of my business, as a couple of people have said, including Karen and Sabina talked about, and then needing to be mindful about that in terms of how I could support other people. And I thought, okay. And I was, first of all, I was quite grateful for the fact if this had happened to me in my business. I've been a coach now for about 17 odd years, 15 full time. If it happened to me in the first 7 years, it would not have been a pretty sight at all. So first of all, I was very grateful that I was at the point where I was at now. So there were certain things I needed to put in practically in place. So for me, there's different things. It's been about what things to address financially, spiritually, emotionally, all of the different things. So that my health and well-being, making sure I was spiritually in a good place, making sure emotionally I was in a good level place, looking at certain practicalities. So the thing that was jumping out for me for this conversation, Steve, is, and I'd say to anyone, really get to know yourself. Where are you at right now? What's the thing that you need to take care of? Is it some of the things that Sabina was saying, that actually myself and my well-being that I need to rest? Is it some of the other practical things that you need to address? Is it some of the communication, conversation things that Christine was saying? So for me, it's been a number of blend of those different things at different kind of times. But maybe the main thing is the leadership thing, because I think that when you're in a leadership role of any kind, you're really being aware that being there to support others as well as yourself has been really, really important, and demonstrating leadership has been really, really important. So a number of things I've been doing, the things that you've been doing, Steve, here, hosting conversations like this, have been a number of things where I realized I need to step into action. There's a weekly event that I put on and so on. And then some of the things I did for the British Library, where we're doing things, putting on things for free for people who needed that support. For me, that's really important. What are the things that I could do? I realized it was important to step up again and step up a level. So that's been really good and a good learning point. But it's been an interesting journey of seeing how each week's just had, and each day's had a different kind of hue. But the things that Christine was saying also about that, the compassionate stuff is really, really important. All the things that have been said so far. It's been an interesting few weeks, and I'm sure it remains.
Yeah, thanks, Rashid. But it's interesting because when I started this stuff, or reignited my LinkedIn Winning Through group, I just felt this overwhelming compulsion to be doing something positive, and I hadn't thought about it as a leadership role at the time. But you're absolutely right. I mean, all of us doing what we do, in some way, we are leaders. You know, Sabina, I don't know if you consider yourself as a leader, but doing what you're doing, you are leading people in some way or other to learn something and to be better people, and to take care of themselves better. So we are playing key roles. But where's it all going to go? I suppose that's the key question, isn't it? What do you think the impact of all the things we've been talking about, what's going to happen in the future? What's the wellbeing agenda going to be post-COVID? I'll open that up generally.
I want to jump in there in a way, in that I'm picking up one thing that Karen said. On the one level, that this reminds us, and many people know already, in a way that lots of people, when this first happened, realize all of a sudden there's one of those reminders, a bit like when we have, those times in life where there's a separation, there's a bereavement, or any kind of a change, redundancy, or what have you. And many people have been going through all of those kind of things right now. So our hearts really go out to them and are there for them. We suddenly realize that no guarantees, no certainties in life, as much as our minds were desperately trying to create those kind of things. Okay, so I think the first of all is that reminder of that, and lots of us are being reminded that this life thing is a blessing, it's a gift, and that every day I look at it that every day is a blessing and a bonus. So I think first of all it's that. So we don't know what's going to happen. All we know is that things are going to be different, maybe slightly or differently to yesterday, but that was always the case in life, right? It's going to be slightly or very different to it was yesterday. But there is an invitation that's been pointed to. There's an invitation for us to connect to people more compassionately, more mindfully. And for me, it's always about raising our consciousness and our compassion. How much we embrace that individually is going to be partly down to us. Collectively, it's going to be down to us to see how much we can kind of influence that, and what the readiness is for us in broader society, from society to society, culturally, culture, country to country. That's going to be where it's going to be very interesting. So that's going to be where it's going to be interesting to what degree we're ready to shift there. That we've already seen that there's a bit of an interesting playoff between the economic and the ecological. You know, as the planet begins to breathe and so on. So who can say, but I think that we've all got, there's an invitation, as with always, for us to show up with that higher consciousness, compassion. And actually, you touched on it before, Steve, also, it's interesting how we use technology and social media, and can we use that more mindfully, as some people are doing right now. This is a good example of it. There's that invitation in terms of what we consume and how we consume absolutely everything. So who knows, but there's an invitation, there's a possibility for progress on all levels, but let's see what happens. Yeah. But it's going to be down to each of us individually.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rashid. I just want to throw open a question within a question then, because a number of conversations I've been having with people, friends, family, you name it, there's a suggestion that maybe people will be less focused on the materialistic and actually more focused on the real important things in life instead. What do people feel about that?
Yeah, I can say something about what I've observed, particularly in my, maybe also in my mindfulness programs that I've been running with corporate clients, but my one-to-one coaching clients have focused more on the preciousness of their human life, if you like. I think there has been a shift in consciousness in how they actually relate to their life, and a shift in it's like a sort of, I think this has been a bit of a wake-up call for some people. Yes. To look at their lives and, you know, what am I doing with my life, and what have I been doing with what do I want to do with my life, what's my contribution, who am I, how do I want to show up. So I find that very heartening, you know, and my hope is that at the collective level, we also ask ourselves these questions. And I think that will be an ongoing process. And I think that's already has changed, because...
Yeah, do you all know the infamous Abraham Lincoln quote? Well, it's probably a number of them, but
yes.
The one I love best, which I usually focus on, is it's not the years in your life that counts, it's the life in your years that counts.
That's great. Yeah, that's exactly it.
I mean, it says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, and just to add to that, you know, we know life is never going to be never going to be the same. It's changed forever, just like 9/11, World War II, all these big life events. And we also know there's going to be a massive influx of mental health at different levels, different generations. Some generations are coping with it well. Younger generation, not so. Mental health is increasing as we speak. I mean, the latest stats are changing all the time, you know. So I think 1 in 4 people now are turning to prayer. So there is that higher level of consciousness that's happening. Unfortunately, when more and more people are searching into the Google search engine, how do you pray? How do you meditate? And there are a wealth of resources out there. So I think we collectively, we need to come together as an industry, a wellbeing industry, and put the right things together, the right resources. And I'm looking at my resilience programs and going, this is already out of date now. I need to shift it up a gear, but how do I do that? Because I haven't got the latest stats, the latest studies. So it's a very interesting space that we're in right now. There's, as Karen and Rashid have alluded to, that there is a whole generation of people who've raised consciousness, and hopefully, you know, we can come together as that generation, as those people, as that industry of well-being, and help the people that really, really need it. And I'm praying that the government will put more funding into charities who help, who absolutely, these counselling charities who've had their funding stripped from them. We need them now more than ever.
Absolutely. And what about, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed in particular when we've been out for our daily walks, a real positive, it's wonderful to see families with kids out on their bikes rather than sitting behind their computer consoles playing computer games. Do you think that will continue? Do you think the daily exercise regime will continue, or will people slip back into their vegetative ways? What do you think, Sabina?
I really think that will actually continue. I don't know, and I'd like to hope that will continue, because it's such an amazing thing. And I think everybody being online, like was mentioned before, is a little bit overwhelming for people, and people are now starting to realize, okay, this is not actually healthy, and are looking out for more spending time in nature, being in the peace, and and in a company of your loved ones. That's what's most important, and looking after their health. Because also this probably made them think, if my immunity is not that strong, I am more likely to get whatever is out there. So looking after their physical health as well as mental health is so important.
Yeah, well, that's where I mean, from my perspective, from somebody who's played sport for years and still does. Well, in theory, I do. hopefully, I'll be playing tennis again very soon. Do you think there'd be more people thinking, right, I must do sport, or I must do physical exercise as well as the mental stuff, as you say, Sabina? Do you think there will be more people just thinking that this is actually good for me, so I need to do more of it?
I think so, because usually to change a habit, it takes about 21 days to do something continuously for 21 days. And I think people, because it's like they only have like 1 hour exercise every day, they make the most out of it. So they are changing, they are creating the new habits, and they are more likely to stay after this lockdown is over, because they've been continuously doing it every day.
Yeah.
So I really actually do think that's going to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, this question, these series of questions you're posing here, Steve, are really interesting. And I think it's very interesting what will happen on an individual level, people in their own units, their own family units, what they do in their own relationships, and then what different workplaces, and then what goes on for different industries. On an individual level, it's going to be down to us individually how much I embrace this. It's a bit like if I was to go to mindfulness with Karen, if I go to my yoga with Sabina, how much I embrace it, how prepared I'm to work on it. If I go to Christina and I'm working on tips perhaps for my mental well-being, it's how my level of commitment to it. It's a bit like, Steve, the things you're saying, like with tennis, it's about down to my commitment to it. How often do I show up? You'll probably be there week in, week out. Other people are there only during Wimbledon. So there's going to be a level of how committed am I to this journey of embracing myself, finding out who I am, finding out what I'm really appreciating life every single day. It's that mindfulness thing that Carol tells us, it's every single day. So I think that I would urge anyone to really embrace this. And it's that point that you made. It's about the life in every single day, in every single moment, and really embracing that and being ready to show up in every moment to oneself. Because who otherwise knows? But if I'm committed to myself, and if I'm committed to every single moment, then there's hopefulness. Whatever happens out there, I can show up in that way in my own relationships, in my own friendships, in my own family, and so on. Otherwise, again, we can become overwhelmed by what isn't or happening, what Boris Johnson is or isn't going to announce this week, and so on. So I think it's important for us to be mindful about how we show up in every single moment. It's going to be key from now on.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, that's actually, I think, a great summation, unless anybody else has got something they want to throw into the pot, but I think that's probably a great way to finish up. Any final thoughts?
I just want to acknowledge also that, and I think this will be helpful for people to maintain commitment, if you like, towards their own mental health, is that the mental health and agenda has become, more important and has, moved to more top of mind. And I think that will help people to take themselves more seriously, because there's sort of the more public permission to do so.
Yeah.
And of course, I agree, we do have to take personal responsibility, but I find it hopeful that, well-being and mental health has got more attention in this time.
Well, hopefully for you and for Sabina in particular, there'll be opportunities to bring it into the workplace more and more.
Yeah.
Once things do start to return to some sort of normal. The interview I did last week, which I just put out this morning, have a look at it when you get a chance. It's more focused about the future of work and the impact of people as a result of what's been going on. But there's an overlap. There's definitely an overlap, because once, and I thought from both the guys interviewed last week, one was in New Zealand, one in London, was that there will be almost a plea from employees to say, you know what, I've enjoyed this home working, never expected to, in which case I want to do more of it. So that employers will have to rethink their whole wellbeing strategies. Equally, you've got the other extreme of people say, this has been my worst nightmare. I've had 3 kids running around, husband, wife, whatever. Nobody can think. It's all been absolute chaos, and they're all tearing their hair out. So I think there's going to be a number of different agendas going on in terms of individual well-being, and also I suppose you could call it corporate or organisational well-being. But I'd like to think, being the positive person I am, I'd like to think that offers opportunities for us all. So on that note, I'd love to thank you all for your contribution, and maybe we can revisit this in a number of weeks' time when we're wherever things are. If you'd like to do that, then obviously let me know.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Steve, for putting this together.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. And stay safe, everyone.
You
Take
too.
good care.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye.